We are doing a talk show this morning, and
I got logged out!
it grabbed the wrong window. You would. You would. Nope. Okay. We're having difficulties this morning because we are totally not prepared for this. I don't know why. We've known we've been doing this for like a week, so. But we're gonna be talking about.
Well, we're playing NBA 2K15.
Technology stuff, and now it is huge. We're playing NBA 2K15. Okay, neither of us are good at that game.
I'm great at NBA 2K15.
Yeah, whatever.
No, I am.
I don't believe you for a second.
We have 300 views. I'm kind of proud.
I know we're doing pretty good. I can't tell. Are we actually live?
Yes, we're actually live. I promise.
Okay, we're live. Well, my thing doesn't update for some reason. It's really stupid. Okay, so I don't know. Micah just rearranged the whole document, so I absolutely have no idea what order this is in or where the document is. Oh, there it is.
I only moved one thing. I moved literally one.
Okay, so there's been. So as soon as I get this up, not prepared at all. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so we are gonna start with, and yeah, I don't have that even right. Oh, I do. We're gonna start with Steam and the paid mods, and I am a big Reddit fanatic, and this has been all over Reddit for like the past 2 days, and people have been flipping out. So I've watched a couple people's opinions. I watched Total Biscuit's opinion, and I watched Bogey2988's opinion. And both of them don't seem to be as, freaked out about it as everybody else. But I think there are a lot of negatives here. I think Micah actually said that he thought this was a good idea.
I haven't looked into it much. I said it was a good idea when all you said was pay for mods. But I haven't looked into the details. I remember after I had said that, you were like, also Valve, or the game dev gets, 75% of the profit? Right?
Valve is taking 75%, or they're taking, the developer of the mod takes 25, and then the 75% goes to Valve and the game dev. So the Valve is splitting that 75% between both of them. The big thing is, I think it's 40, I think that when they do it, so Bethesda did this and talked with Valve, and I think they can decide when they do it what percentage each of them gets of that 75. So I believe Bethesda's taking 45 and Valve's taking 35, which isn't horrible. But the thing is, even at 35%, Valve is making 35% of whatever the mod sells for something they have no hand in at all. It makes a lot more sense when you're talking about TF2 or whatever. Because they develop TF2 or Dota, when they're selling skins and stuff. They develop those games. So it makes sense that Valve takes a cut of that. But they're taking an unusually large cut for something they really, except for offer a platform to sell this stuff on, they didn't really have any hand in. The other thing that is a big deal with this is already, and I think it was in the first day that started happening, people were going on to Nexus Mods, pulling mods that they didn't own and putting them back up on the store and selling them as their own. So that's a pretty big issue here.
Yeah.
We've apparently some modders are considering quitting, as this article is talking about. This one is talking about all the people that are freaking out about it and uploading their own uploading mods that aren't even theirs, and it's just everybody is flipping out, and to the point where Skyrim's rating actually got decreased. It went from overwhelmingly positive to very positive within 3 days. So, and I think there are a lot of issues. I think the biggest issue is that Valve traditionally is very hands off. So anything that that happens that's kind of screwing over the consumer, Valve's really not what from what we've seen, Valve probably won't do anything because I mean they had so many issues with the Greenlight. Like people were uploading all kinds of stuff with Greenlight, and if Valve isn't going to police this at least somewhat, we're going to have some serious issues with it. Um, I think that a lot of people are more freaked out about it than any other reason because where modding has traditionally been a free thing, people just don't want to have to pay for it. But my opinion is, you do work, shouldn't you get paid for that? Like,
Yeah.
if you're doing something, even if you're passionate about it, it's still work. Like you're still producing content. And I mean, I think if you're doing something that people really like, they're going to pay for it anyways. If someone loves the product that you're making, even if it is a mod, I mean, even before you would get donations. Well, now you've got a legitimate way of actually charging for that. And I think that's good, but I think there can be a lot of issues with it. Especially, I didn't put the Forbes article in here because I just read it this morning, but they were talking about, and I know Forbes sometimes can be a little bit unreliable and like people's opinions on Forbes are a little weird. Well, sometimes some people on Forbes are a little bit more unreliable than others, and people's opinions can be a little strange on Forbes, at least from what I've seen. Okay, maybe I'm just crazy because you're looking at me strange.
Forbes is first and foremost a business site, and so people have
Like,
opinions that are usually influenced by economics and the economics of things. And so if people have predetermined thoughts going in about how the economics of, for instance, this modding should work, then they'll think, oh, these Forbes people are crazy. So that's why. The thing with me that I'm thinking about this is Valve should just take like a really low set rate because Valve's giving them a platform, but these people, I mean, modders are pretty smart. They know how to go about marketing their mod to people. Valve should take a low rate to give them the platform, and the developer should set the other rate. That way, it probably won't end up at 75, and if it does, there's a more direct way to deal with that because have more devs have more incentive to get modders to help their community outlast what the devs ever could have made just with the
yeah,
game.
so you're saying instead of doing a 75-20 and that 75 being split between the developer and Valve, it should be Valve takes like say 10% and then the developer can take say 40, which would be 50, and then leave 50 for the modders. I think that'd be a lot better too because 25% doesn't incentivize a modder especially to put their stuff up on this platform at all. Like 25 cents on a dollar, that's nothing. They could probably make more money by putting it up on Nexus Mods and waiting for donations, to be totally honest. But the Forbes article was talking about that you may get some people that just want to make money, and so you may get just horrible crap mods. And there is a 24-hour period where you can return it if it's not a good mod or whatever, if there's something wrong with it. But after that 24 hours, it doesn't matter. Like, Valve's site on the thing, it specifically says if there's a problem after the 24-hour period, so say you download another mod or an update for the game breaks the mod, basically they said go onto the forums and post politely and hope you get a response. So you paid, say, and maybe it was a really good mod when you started, you paid say $10 for the mod, and whoever, I mean, it may not be Skyrim at this point, say it's some new game like a new Fallout or whatever, which of course still be through, I think Bethesda still makes those.
Yeah.
And so they update the game and then it breaks the mod. Well, if the modder doesn't feel like fixing that, you're out $10 for something that you wanted. So, and there was something else on there that I can't remember exactly that they were saying that would be an issue. Yeah, it was going to attract people that just weren't going to be really passionate about it like they are now. Because most modders do it right now because they know they can potentially make money off of donations, but they probably aren't going to make a lot. And so most of them do it for passion, and you're going to get a lot of people that aren't doing that anymore. Oh, and the other thing was they were saying that developers could consider it kind of like a way to skirt fixing bugs or skirt like DLC because they're going to be making money off of it. And so basically, if there's a bug, they can basically say, well, modders will just fix this eventually, and just let modders do it, and then they still make the money off of it, and they don't have to fix that bug. I don't see that happening,
No.
but well, with Bethesda, I sure don't see that happening. I see that maybe happening with some other developers, like with the alpha games and stuff. Some of the other developers that are kind of doing the shady, like, not the good alpha, because there are some really good developers out there making alpha games that are great, and they're already ready, and they're really polished, and they're just fixing up bugs before they're ready to release. But some of the ones that are kind of like, we're not really going to do anything, we're just putting this out there because it's a cool idea and we want to make a bunch of money off of it, and it's not even ready to go yet. I see the developers that are trying to do that kind of thing going into this business and then being like, okay, so we're going to not fix this specific issue because it's really hard and we don't see putting the time into it. And if our community is big enough, eventually modders are going to fix it anyways. I don't know how much of an issue that's going to be. I kind of see that kind of too much of a tinfoil hat type situation here.
Yeah.
I don't see that specific issue happening, but I mean, it is a concern.
I couldn't see with such a big community with a big community like Steam, obviously the consumers will influence the producers massively. The only place that could happen would be with really small games, but with really small games, they're already not making a good enough profit to dare even try something like that, because then people are going to go, okay, these developers are lazy and worthless. I don't want anything to do with them. And then in an attempt to make cheap money, they have completely ruined their profit. So I don't see that happening. I don't see how that could happen. That's a cute dog in the background. But uh, no, I don't see that happening at all.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't figure. I mean, that seemed a little bit too far-fetched in my opinion. I was
Yeah.
like, it's just maybe, but I doubt it. It's just, and that's kind of like, yeah. Well, I mean, we discuss stuff like this all the time. Eventually, the competition is gonna fix that stuff, anyways. So I don't see. Did you dump like trash all over yourself?
That
That's
was
awesome.
empty. They had peep dust in the bottom.
Awesome.
It smelled like Easter.
The competition eventually, a lot of these issues, especially if Valve decides to take some input from like people that are complaining and stuff, and maybe do something like take a smaller cut and then the developer can set their own cut. You're not gonna be able to hear me right now. You can? Okay. At some point, I feel like that the competition will fix a lot of these issues, especially if Valve doesn't do the traditional we're just the platform that it's being sold on, hands-off approach type thing. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. So, what do you think about Mario Kart 8's new 200cc mode?
Okay, I watched some people play this, and here's the article if you guys want to check it out. We can start posting some of these in chat. If it'll let me. Yeah, it worked. So I watched the video. It looks like a lot of fun, but a lot of people, even the people that say it's a lot of fun, say that it's really fast. Like, to the point where it's almost hard to play. Like, harder than normal Mario Kart. I don't know, because I don't play much Mario Kart anymore. And I think that I usually only played on like 100cc, so I'm assuming I'd get wrecked in 200cc.
Yeah.
I don't know. You own Mario Kart 8, right?
Yeah, Mario Kart 8 is, first off, best game in the series so far. As much as I love 64 and actually Mario Kart 7 for the Wii, I didn't enjoy it for the DS. I've never enjoyed Mario Kart games for the Game Boy or DS. Regardless, Mario Kart 8 is my favorite installment in the series, so this is a big deal for me. I watched the video not, probably a minute and a half ago, so that I would know what I was talking about. And I read through some of the commentary on the internet. And from what I've seen from the internets and from this video, and from Gaijin Goomba, Gaijin Goomba is commenting on it and said it is officially too fast. I think people are missing that, like, the whole point of the CCs, like 50 is the easiest thing ever, because the first Mario game I played, okay, I'm a little youngster. The first Mario game, or Super Mario Kart game that I played, was Mario Kart for the Wii, and I started on 150cc because I did not know that. And so then I was really good at the game because I got my teeth kicked in over and over. So I think this is really interesting. It looks painfully fast, because it's probably harder for Steven to understand because I don't know how much of Mario Kart 8 you've played, if any.
I had not played any Mario Kart 8, so Mario Kart 7 was my last experience with Mario Kart.
Yeah, putting this into perspective, if you could do that, like if you played Mario Kart 8 and put this in perspective, you would understand how painfully fast it looks. Uh, I think it'll be really fun, and I, as long as they're releasing it for free, and
Yeah,
that's what I really like about it. You don't have to play this, and it's not like they promised a new game based
yeah,
200cc. So I think it's one of those things where it's really actually there are no negatives to it
yeah.
because you can ignore it if you want, and it is just I mean there's nothing wrong with
Okay,
it.
so I agree with you, and there was another issue of like free DLC recently that people were like complaining about because it made it harder or whatever, and they're like, "We don't want the game to be any harder," and I'm like, "Well, you can ignore that." The only reason that I say this could be an issue for some people is the people that are completionists that like have to beat the game on every level, and maybe they're not very good at Mario Kart. Maybe they only like they just barely beat 150cc. Those people are just gonna like hate this mode. So for most people, I don't see this being an issue, but for those people, I could see it being a slight like OCD issue.
Well, at that point, I think you just close your eyes and don't download the update
That's
because
true too. Because if it's not in your game, you can ignore it a little bit better.
but I'm not sure. I think that the Wii, whereas the Xbox, you can put off updates for specific games. The Wii may auto update,
That's
uh,
possible.
because Nintendo is douche. That that Nintendo makes me so angry with some of the dumb things they do. So
Nintendo does some stupid things, but I still love Nintendo. So
hey, we could play Mario Kart on the Apple Watch soon.
Mario Kart on the Apple Watch.
Yeah,
I feel like that would be extremely painful.
I feel like it was a joke to segue into the next topic.
I feel like it
Apple
was too,
to allow.
but I still feel like that would be extremely painful.
Yeah.
That would be horrible. Please not. So
Actually, that could be okay. Have you seen the? Oh my God, what is it called? It turns your iPhone into virtual reality goggles. It's actually a case
like,
for your phone. Okay.
are you sure it's not for the Samsungs? Like it actually sits in front of your face?
It is also being developed for the iPhone, and
Okay, I didn't realize they were developing one for the iPhone.
well, they were supposed to come out at the same time, but it was a lot harder to make for the iPhone. Regardless, then that would be kind of cool because you could be like, yeah, they see me roll it.
Yeah, I mean they've done some. There's a company that actually does like a. It's not virtual reality in the same way that you're talking about, but they do like a like you can hold your phone up and you like put a like thing on the back of it, and I believe it uses the camera, and you can like almost play like a first person shooter in real life. Like anybody else that has it, you can like hit the button and it'll actually like shoot towards them, and like uh I don't remember what it's called, but it looks kind of interesting. I don't know if I would participate in it, but it looks pretty interesting. Um, but as far as this goes, I feel like most games, like this puzzle one, letter pad down here. Okay, that makes sense. Um, so some of these I feel like could be okay to
Yeah.
play on the phone or on the Apple Watch, but most things I see being extremely hard to develop and play on the Apple Watch. And I feel like this is the same issue that I had with the Apple Watch to begin with, is that Apple didn't take their traditional approach, and I kind of hate this because I think the Apple Watch could have done much better. It's still gonna do great because it's Apple, but they basically said, okay, everybody else is coming out with watches, so we need to get into this market, and we're gonna take the phone and we're gonna throw it into the watch. And I don't feel like that's a good way to do this at all. And I feel like
I
they're still trying to do that too much.
I actually don't. So I went to the Apple store and actually, have you tried out the Apple Watch?
No, but it's crazy because I don't actually want one, but every time I see the stinking commercial, I'm like, I want that. I don't even want it, but I do.
Okay, so I was in your boat. Like, even when the commercials came on, I was like, "This is actually stupid, and I hate it." But after I went there, okay, I actually believe in the new MacBook. Okay, that you heard me talk about the MacBook. I believe in it.
You hated the new MacBook.
Okay, I actually believe in it. Me, Micah Headley, believes in the new MacBook and the new Apple Watch. And here's why. I went there, and I discovered this lady who I actually already knew because she goes to my high school, who generally is really, she was in the exact same boat that we sort of are, that you are, and I'm not really in now. She actually works for the Apple Store now. But even when she was in that boat, she did work for the Apple Store. And so I talked to her about it, and she was like, "Okay, I figured it out." So part of the reason that the, like, especially like the M Core series, like the M Core processor going into the new MacBook, everyone was like, "That's not going to be powerful enough." Blah blah blah. Well, first off, Mac is great at making logic boards that can get the best out of a processor. They're great at.
Yes, they are really good at that.
Um, and apparently, from what she's heard, Apple's working to help to incentivize Intel to make the M Core series that much more efficient with
Which I
their
think
logic
is a great
boards.
thing because there's so many uses that this M core could have, and it could potentially be put in tablets and actually make faster tablets. Because I think Intel is so far ahead of, yeah, what's the name of the company that makes?
AMD,
No, not AMD. They make mobile chips. They only make mobile ARM.
ARM. Yeah.
They're so far ahead of ARM in that perspective that, and not that I don't want ARM to like thrive and get better, but I think that they can make tablets come into the perspective where they can actually be used to like dock when you get home and use as a full computer. I don't think ARM is capable of that yet. They may be soon, and this may actually help them do that because they need to be able to compete with Intel now.
Yeah.
But at this point, ARM just isn't quite powerful enough to do that. Like there's no way. I haven't used the newest iPad, but I really don't think that I personally could use the newest iPad to do any kind of work on, like actual like computer desktop work. I don't think it would be fast enough for me. So that's a problem. But I like the ARM processor. My biggest issue is they didn't put the MacBook at a good spot, and we're not even talking about the Apple Watch anymore. We just totally segued into something else. They kind of like gave it a weird name, and it's below the MacBook Air, but it's thinner. Like they could have done a little bit better with the naming scheme. But other than that, I think that it's got a specific set of people that it's going to work really well for. It's those people that want something super thin and light with just a little bit more power than an iPad, but don't want to sacrifice, like, have to have a tablet that they're carrying around, want a full computer, and don't need 4,000 million things plugged into their computer. Because if you need that, you don't want a MacBook because you're going to have, like, spaghetti, like, adapters everywhere.
Dongles.
Yeah, but I think there is a market for it, and I think it's going to do really well. It's just, it's not for either of us at all.
Well,
okay, it's definitely not for me.
yeah, for me, I could see myself getting one because I actually, when I was there, she let us run like Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro editing video actually ran phenomenally.
Did it render? Did you render anything?
Yeah, she let us partially render something. We didn't get to save it to the hard drive. It rendered very quick. The computer wasn't that hot. It was really impressive. I was very impressed and frankly shocked.
And a
But
lot of that has to do with the new RAM and hard drives they're using because they're using even faster than what they were using like an M.2 type connector before that's directly into the motherboard, and so that improves a lot anyways because even with an SSD still you're kind of bottlenecked a little bit by your storage device, so I can see that actually rendering fairly well. I mean, it's not gonna be nearly as fast as a MacBook Pro, but
no, but the Apple Watch, okay. Here's my pitch on the Apple Watch. their commercials, this is the one mistake that their marketing department has made, like the one major mistake they've made in the last like million years in their existence, because Apple's marketing department is partially what keeps Apple the best company in the world and the richest in the world, um, by a huge margin. They every screenshot they showed, every picture they showed, every design film they showed, it looked like they put the stupid phone on your wrist. I don't need that. When I went there and they showed the demo reel, and then they actually, because they weren't busy, and a bunch of people had canceled appointments, I got to try one on.
You actually got to use it?
Yeah, and um, the accessibility of it is a major plus. You're never gonna miss a text because the haptic feedback feels amazing, which is another thing with the MacBook where a bunch of people were worried. The haptic
I
feedback
think that's
pressing on
amazing.
it feels exactly like using a normal laptop, except where have you ever so because people are so used to uh the older laptops where you have, one button on the left, one button on the right,
Yes.
people still do that. Apple is forcing you to move to the middle with your clicks. So if you do just one finger, then it's, a normal click, two fingers, it's the right click.
Which to
I think
me,
it's really good to move people towards that.
that makes sense to me because of using a Mac for so long, but to a lot of people, they're just like, how do I right click?
Yeah.
They just freak out. And I'm
It's
like, it's really not that hard. It's actually fairly intuitive to do.
yeah,
Um,
it feels better to me on the MacBook. I was one of those people who didn't really like right clicking on trackpad, believe it or not, but on the MacBook it feels really natural to me. Anyway, Apple Watch. So for example, just like the camera app. So you're not gonna like, okay, get in. You're not gonna do that. What it allows you to do is make it a timer. So you could, if you're setting up for, say, like a group picture, you set up your phone, you run over there, and you hit the button. Okay, it's just like a little quick time-saving feature, which to me is a really good thing for a smartwatch because a smartwatch, to me personally, and other people are gonna have different thoughts on this, um, it shouldn't be solely to create new features. It should be to complement the old features and move ahead with the old features. And tying it to the computers and the phones, which I think Apple's going to do a lot better with their new when they release their new iOS, because iOS 8 was a disaster. It's
yes,
getting better, but it was an absolute
it
disaster
was horrible.
of something that could have been wonderful. Like if they had delivered
I,
on everything they promised, like so many people I know have been having problems with what's it called? Connecting your messages and things back
the
to
continuity.
continuity. So many people I know have had issues with
I
continuity.
haven't even really tried continuity, but I don't use my Mac anymore, which is totally crazy. But
Yeah.
where I've got my computer, I just it's there, and I think that's why. It's not that I don't want to use my Mac, because when I use my wife's, like I'm sitting there using it, and I'm like, why don't I have these things like spaces and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and expose that are what's not called expose anymore, but that are just
Launchpad.
yeah, no, not launchpad. It's the where you get all the windows and they spread out on their own, like they spread out and you
Okay.
can click them.
Okay.
Love that feature. I wish I had that on Windows. It would make my life so much easier. Um, but I don't really use my Mac. But I feel like with iOS 8, there were a lot of issues. Like I had for months, my iPhone wouldn't back up to iCloud.
Yeah.
I've had issues with the screen rotating. I literally have to double tap the home button and open the mode where you can get all your apps, and then go back into the app before the screen will rotate. I don't know why. It just does that. Um, I've had what was the other one? iCloud, and it doesn't do this anymore. But when I first updated, iCloud would always pop up and be like, "We need your iCloud password," and it would do it like every morning, like stuff like that. I do have to give props to them though, because somehow this thing magically survived a dip in the sink. So I don't know how.
Yeah. No, I will respect Apple though for the improvement just from 8 to 8.1 was massive,
Yes, it was.
and they're still making really good changes. So I respect them for not just being like, oh god, jump ship, I'm out! Because that is usually what happens to Apple. Like with the iPad 1 to the iPad 2, they didn't even try to like fix the problems with the iPad. They just like discontinued it and then released this other like really nice product. They were like, it's cool, guys." Uh, which I guess is different because it's hardware rather than software.
So
But let's not go there.
I guess I'm gonna have to go check out the Apple Watch and see if I actually like it. The one I was actually looking at was the Pebble Time. Um,
I've heard a lot
so
of things about the
the,
Pebble.
the what I like so much about the Pebble Time is that it's not so much, and it may feel like this less once I use an Apple Watch, but to me it felt not so much like trying to put the phone in the watch. It's like a timeline, so you get all the stuff in your day or previously or right now, and it's more of a, like you said, it's complementing existing things that are already there. So your phone already handles text messages. Your phone already handles um, uh, calendar. It handles all that stuff. So I feel like a smartwatch, for me to actually buy a smartwatch and use one, I don't use a watch at all. I just use my phone for everything. Um, I feel like it needs to complement those features, and it sends those alerts to me in an intuitive way so I don't have to reach into my pocket to get my phone.
Well, okay, so you don't.
That's what I'm
For
saying.
for
Like it
example,
can
with
send those things to me in an intuitive way. They're easy to get to. They're accessible, and I don't have to go through a bunch of other things. Like because I mean you've got all those apps, and I feel like if that's not actually needed to be used, I would love the Apple Watch.
yeah, no, you okay, for you mentioned text messages and emails, so you would never read an email on your Apple Watch. They made it so that you can if you're like desperate, like your phone's dead or whatever. But all it does is alert you. So you can I'd imagine what
So
they're
it
gonna
gives
build
like
it.
the subject, and then that's about it. It might give
Yeah.
like a line of text.
And you can open it, but then that's not really intuitive. But they've made it so that you can, which I think is really good because it gives you an opportunity if you're that guy. What I think they'll end up doing is building into their mail app so that if you favorite a user, then it alerts you on your wrist. Text messages. So they use Siri to send back. Siri on the Apple Watch is painfully accurate. Okay,
Really, because it's not nearly. And I have a Nexus. My
so
Nexus with Google Now, so much better than Siri.
when I was in the Apple Store, okay, you know how loud like the Apple Store in Knoxville
Yes.
gets because you've been to Westtown Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was standing, this far away. Just I was trying to test, what it would be like if it was on my wrist and saying, just telling it like in my normal voice, like, would because in the demo reel it actually allowed you to go in and like respond however you wanted. And so it's like, "Hey, are you up for tonight?" And I was like, "Yes, Jane, I am up for tonight. Midnight at 12?" Question mark, and it was perfect. Like as loud as the Apple Store is, it was really good, and so I was really impressed by that. Really, it is an intuitive tool that Apple has done a bad job of saying we're not putting your phone on your wrist. We are making features of your phone like that you have to check every 5 minutes more accessible, and the watch face is actually my favorite part of the watch, as it should be, because like again, learning how this all fits into the ecosystem. When you have your calendar, and I know a lot of people don't use the calendar app very much, um, but a lot of people also use it pretty excessively. You know, especially with the new MacBooks, if they use the same trackpad that, or the same features that this
Mm-hmm.
haptic feedback trackpad use. So if you go in and normally you would like double click on something, it would highlight in blue like text.
Yeah.
So with this, if you push harder on it, it'll like actually highlight like yellow highlight, say like a time. It'll ask if you want to add, midnight at 12 to your calendar. Okay, so that's really intuitive that you can add it. But then, if you change your watch face, you can have the bottom tell you your next calendar event. And so, just by glancing, I can say, okay, at 1, I need to be at Ben and Jerry's home makeover. It is currently 12:30. Ben and Jerry's home maker. God. It's currently 12:30 p.m. It really is more intuitive. This is the major mistake that Apple has made, is that it is way more intuitive than you think it is, or that you could ever imagine it would be. So
I might have
that
to go check that out then.
yeah,
Okay,
you just have to see it.
we've spent entirely too long on this
Oh yeah,
because we're both like Apple people,
oh yeah.
which I may be switching to Android, which is apparently blasphemy. But
Okay.
yes, I know. So we're gonna go on to our next topic, which is that one of the top League of Legend player retires. I'm gonna let Headley take this whole thing because I know nothing about League of Legends or anybody that plays.
Okay, so League of Legends is not my main esports game. That is definitely Counter-Strike. But I care about Cloud9 as an organization, despite them not being my favorite. Here's the problem with this. I have lost my article. Hello, Gaben. Uh, okay. So High Lam, who was the IGL, the in-game leader of Cloud9, is gone due to a wrist injury. That is a major hit after they have cut two players for the organization. They cut two players. They cut in the Counter Strike scene. They cut Simphus and Shazam. Now this is a problem because as an organization, okay, you have to have success to some degree. Their Cloud9 Counter Strike team got dead last at ESEA LAN when 8 months ago they were getting top 4 at international LANs with Hiko, Simphus, Shongairs, Nothing, and last player. Frankly, I can't remember who the last player was. Was it Shroud, maybe? No, Swag. It was Swag. So the problem is that with their Counter Strike team they had Simphus and Shongairs, neither of who were great. The thing with Shongairs, they both played sort of the same roles, but neither of them were great at their roles. So you could use Shongairs as like the utility opper. He missed a lot of shots though, regardless of what weapon he was using at times. But he was a great in-game leader. He had set strats, and his whole strategy relied on we will execute better than they will. Nothing crazy, just classic Counter-Strike. Whereas Simphus used kind of a more scrimmy style of play, where he used his intuition to use crazy smokes and flashes and awkward Molotovs, to get frags. You couldn't have both. So Cloud9 wasn't doing they were doing well, but not great at these international lands. Even though they had the two best players in North America at the time, Hiko and Swag. If you can't win with those two, something is wrong with your roster. Either Simphus or Shongairs had to go. I don't know which one I think should have gone. Shazam, I don't even want to talk about. Shazam, I never thought he was great in the first place, but with Cloud9, he was horrific. I remember watching them at Aspen, at X Games Aspen, and he got like 4 TKs. It was embarrassing. Cloud9 is just, as an organization, dysfunctional. I don't think I think it's going to take a little while to get back in. That's all I have to say about that. It's pretty horrible for them right now.
Okay, let's go to the next one, which this is hilarious. I actually saw this earlier in the week. Someone apparently got mad enough that they actually shot their computer. I don't even know what to say about this. Like, I mean, people say stuff like this all the time. I'm going to shoot this thing. The fact that someone actually went and shot it, I don't even know.
Damn it, Dell. Okay, moving on.
Okay, so Comcast has apparently just stopped trying to merge with Time Warner, which, hooray. Super excited about this. This did not need to happen. This was just a horrible, horrible thing that they were trying to do. I mean, they so much operate like in different parts of the country. Like, they would have had a total monopoly. It just would have been bad.
Again, though, The problem with this is not necessarily monopoly by companies, it's monopoly by local governments and saying, okay, only Time Warner can come here and build. Net
Yes,
neutrality would never have had to happen if it weren't for the fact that that local governments were corrupt and created local
and
monopolies.
I agree. The problem is, I'm just glad
Yeah,
this stopped because this didn't need to happen. That would have
yeah,
been really bad. Even
yeah,
though we've got like those other issues, this would have created a whole nother issue that just would have been
yeah.
it would have been the worst because they could basically then expand and make sure they're always expanding in areas where the other one's not. Like,
Well, to some degree, I think that's true. Until you can get local governments to stop being corrupt and stop creating local monopolies, net neutrality has to happen. Although, as a strict, laissez-faire
yeah, you are not
economic,
happy about the whole net
I
neutrality
hate
thing.
that idea. But you're right, net neutrality, because government got involved, government has to get uninvolved before the free market can actually be successful. Just like right now, you can't just set corporations free because they have money from big banks and big
Yeah.
government. The
The
combination of the three is
the problem is
horrendous.
I think that even though net neutrality is trying to stop some of the whole local governments being able to control this, I think we've kind of created a cycle where government is always going to have to be slightly involved at some because government can never get I mean, maybe eventually, but at this point, it doesn't look like government can completely get uninvolved because as soon as they do that, then we're just going to be back to this whole thing where local governments are going to be involved again, and then we're going to have to fix it again, and it's just going to be a whole circle. So,
Well, you have to uninvolve all government. The federal government is going to be worse than if a dog and a pea coast had a race. Who would win? Uh, a pie cost. I'm not sure. I think the pie cost. So I would say that local government that federal government would be worse than local government because nothing is ever going to fix itself when you have a nationalized level of government making a decision for 300 million people. But local government creating monopoly is ugh. Okay. This is just going to turn into genuinely, this is just all about economics. And the fact is that until government gets out, you're not going to fix the net neutrality problem. You're not going to fix the monopoly problem because government regulation will always help corporations more than it hurts them. Because lobbyists will always lobby for regulation that actually hurts, Comcast and Time Warner's competitors. And so I don't see this having a real solution other than just like government screwing off.
I
That's
think
the
it's a very temporary solution. I think eventually we'll be able to find another one, but I hope that it fixes it at least enough that we can have better internet soon.
Has government ever done anything temporary? The problem is
This is
you
true.
can't as especially like
But no, what I'm saying is I don't think the government is going to be in temporary, but I think this would be a temporary solution to finding another problem. I don't think it's going to be a temporary. I think it should be temporary.
yeah, it's not going to be, it should be. Okay.
So this is another article here about. It looks like apparently the government tried to stop it. I didn't actually read this article, so I don't know.
Let's just pretend
Um,
Eric Holder doesn't exist and move on
I don't
because
exactly know what that one states. This is really cool. The Amazon Dash, Quirky. I actually buy a lot of stuff from Quirky, and um, so I am looking forward to the Amazon Dash, and it looks like we're gonna start seeing stuff integrate with Amazon Dash already. So this is a wine rack from Quirky that would keep track of what's in your wine rack, and it would actually automatically send out to Amazon Dash when it got empty or close to empty to refill it, and you would automatically get stuff. You wouldn't have to worry about it at all. I think this is amazing. I'm super looking forward to the Amazon Dash button as soon as I get one, just because I know a lot of people say that this is like the end of humanity. Well, I don't think anybody's actually said that, but some people have joked about it. But and I kind of agree that it's making us more lazy, but it also gives us, and this is my thing, technology can either enable you to be more lazy which this easily could do, or it can enable you to have time for other things. So something that you no longer have to think about because you see it and you run out and the Amazon Dash button's there and you check the button. Well, now you have time instead of having to go on Amazon.com or go to the grocery store to get this stuff. You now have time to do stuff with family, friends. Like, you gain extra time back as technology gets better and better. So I see this as being, for some people, it's going to make them more lazy. But I see this as being a good thing overall because it's going to end up, for a lot of people, enabling you to have more time for other things.
This is so topical! Okay. So, for our English class right now, we've actually been having debates, and our English teacher, who is a huge, like, not really a Luddite or anything, please tell me I didn't, like, pronounce that wrong.
I don't know, because I don't know what that word is.
Caveman.
Okay.
Traditionalist, whatever. So, he gave us all these articles saying that high internet usage is making us worse readers, right? And
I
that
would argue against that, but
it makes us not worse readers, but it changes the way we read because of hyperlinks. Like, it is difficult at times to read a long novel, especially like T.S. Eliot, because the syntax is very complicated, and we're used to having hyperlinks to get background information on that. So I disagree, but this is topical because you talked about people saying this is the end of humanity. Well, dang cotton gin making our slave labor more lazy. The problem is that humanity will always lead up to technological innovation. Technological innovation will create new jobs, new ways for people to do things, and new technology. Like the cycle will never end.
No.
And so I think it is. It doesn't matter. Here was my argument specifically with is the internet, is Google mind control, tinfoil hat. My argument with this was, you're wrong. This side of the room that's saying it does is wrong. This side of the room that's saying it doesn't is wrong because it doesn't matter. And here's why. Because fundamentally, internet and books are both information technologies. Okay, they give us information. Excuse me. If one of those is better at giving information, it doesn't matter how we get it. It's information. It's more efficient. It's better. There's no reason to have books. If books become obsolete because of internet, so be it. It was a worthy change. Moving on.
Okay, so you're talking about like informational books, not like reading like storybooks.
Anything, because information, fundamentally information, whether it's
But I mean, even
entertainment,
even with the rise of ebooks, they're moving that stuff onto the internet.
Yes.
You can still read books. Like, it's not like books are going away.
No, according to the studies though that they did, people are much less comprehensive if they read on a screen rather than on paper, which I myself would actually agree with. I tend to comprehend things and get a lot more out of books if I read them out of like paper, because
okay, so go ahead. Okay, this perspective is totally like foreign to me because I don't have quite a photographic memory, but when it comes to reading things, I remember most of what I read. It doesn't matter where I get that information from. I remember it. And so that's kind of a foreign, that doesn't make sense to me where one type of, media consumption, where you're getting it from is different than another. So, I could see that kind of being from, because the other way, it's in front of you. It's physical. And some people's brains just do that better and understand that better. So I can kind of see where that would be problems for people. To me, it's not a problem at all. I mean, I'm still going to remember it just as well and comprehend it the same. So, but I could see that being an issue.
It's not an issue for me. Really, the problem comes with, if cable TV created a culture of sound bites, then the internet in some ways has created a culture of iBytes, right? Bytes, get it? B-Y-T-E.
Yeah.
So, like news is just getting dumbed down. Some things are getting dumbed down. Hyperlinks give us so much information, but ultimately, if these are information technologies, I'm getting more information from short reading, and I'm getting better information, then it shouldn't matter. Speaking of better information, this is some pretty good information. There will be esports on ESPN2. You like the transition?
That was great. I actually think this is awesome. I am not super into esports. I know you're pretty big into esports. Um, but this basically is starting to legitimize esports as a real sport. I mean, I
Which
know it's already huge. Like in other people's eyes, like in gamers' eyes, it's a real sport. Like people that game, this is a real sport. It's a legitimate thing that people do, and you can make money doing it. You can go and do like you can get paid for competitions. You can actually make a good amount of money, and there's tons and tons of people that watch this. But in people that don't kind of understand this, this is pushing the road towards legitimizing this as a real sport. And I think that's awesome because when you legitimize something like this as a real sport, it kind of gives a little bit more understanding. Eventually, it'll give a little bit more understanding to people that don't necessarily game and like, why do you do this all the time? Well, it's to me, it's something that I enjoy, and it's the same as any other hobby. I mean, yes, I'm doing it at a computer, but it's a hobby. It's fun, and it's something that I can socialize with my friends and have fun and all that. So, I love this. It's awesome. I
yeah,
don't know what you think, but
okay. Here's my only critique: is you're okay. He Heroes of the Storm is pretty big, but you know what's better? League. And you know
yes,
what ESPN had the opportunity to get last year?
League.
League. And you know what they didn't get? League. That is my only problem with this. Like, if you're gonna get Heroes of the Storm, why are you not getting League of Legends? Genuinely, why would you not? There's no reason. Because
Can
it
you
was
talk? I'm taking a phone call
League.
real quick.
Okay, League was viewed by more people than the I believe it was the NBA Finals and also not combined, but the NBA Finals and the MLB World Series. That's really big viewership. That is a big deal. That is massive. There's massive respect for the game in that regard. Um, and people go, "Oh, well, it was free on the internet." Well, the internet's not free, and neither is cable. Shut your whore mouth. So, um, I really like this. I really like that ESPN is just admitting that esports are a legitimate thing and there's a huge market for esports. And it makes me really happy that they are willing to just concede that their elitist view that you have to be bulky and muscular to play real sports. Like, okay, I was let's see, I did 4 hour a day workouts. I was a wrestler. I played football all through, middle school up into the beginning of high school. My 8th grade year, I had a 310-pound squat. Like I was insane. Okay, I'm that guy you expect to be the elitist douchebag, but now I'm getting into competitive Counter Strike, like an actual CEVO team, and then I already play competitive TF2. And I play in ESEA as well. So there is definitely a degree to which esports are as competitive and um, as as good as real sports, physical sports, but they're more mind games. For as smart as you have to be a wrestler, take that phone call, Steven Fisher. To be a wrestler or to play football, because both of those games are extremely thought intensive. You definitely have to be extremely important to play esports because that is your tool. Your mind is your tool. You can have fast reflexes, but the reason that some players say on like say NIP and Counter Strike. The reason they're the best is not because they have the best, DM and aim. Like they don't always win the aim duels. They're just super intelligent. And the same thing would go for like a TSM. And so that's my whole thought on esports being legitimized. That's all. That's it. Just
Okay.
it's genuine.
Sorry, I had to take a phone call, so I only got about half of that, but I agree with everything that I heard.
Okay.
So, okay, next. Marvel and Telltale are gonna make a game. There's nothing here, so I'm not even gonna post this because it's just basically they're gonna make a game that's gonna be in 2017, and no one really knows what it is. I see this as being a really weird matchup. Totally not even the same like type of games.
Wolverine's cool game for sexy people.
Telltale makes great games. I haven't played a lot of Marvel games, but I enjoy what I played. The Telltale games, especially um the Walking Dead series, amazing. I've heard a lot of good things about The Wolf Among Us. They, it's kind of like bringing more story elements into gaming, but not doing it in the way that like the Order 1886 did, where it was basically just a bunch of QTEs. Like
Yeah.
there are a lot of QTEs in the Walking Dead and the other games, but this is very much telltale.games.com/strongbad. What?
Do you not remember this? Click on it.
Okay, I'm gonna click this. Cool games for attractive people.
Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people.
That's awesome. I do remember that now. Anyways, they're really good at making games that kind of make you feel for the characters. In a way that not very many games have really done. And it's regardless of like they brought a kid into a game and made you feel for that kid. And it wasn't like the traditional like um mission where you have to basically cart the person around behind you or in front of you and make sure that they're okay. The whatever that my brain. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. You actually felt attached to that kid. That's something that no one has really done before. And well, they've done, but they haven't done well. Telltale did it really well in the first Walking Dead game, in my opinion.
No.
You don't think they did it well, or they're not
No,
the
I
first?
think they're not the first. So, actually being with the character, well, no. Because, wait, when did that Walking Dead game come out? 2014?
13, I think.
13? When did, the PS4 exclusive zombie game come out? I can't think of what it's called. Or the PlayStation exclusive one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, never heard of this game.
Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us.
The Walking Dead was first.
Okay.
Barely.
There was so okay, as far as inducing emotion, I'm thinking that you're talking about The Walking Dead where uh the little girl has to either chain up the is that what you're talking about? The scene in because this is like the point and click adventure Walking
Yes.
Dead, right? Okay. Are
But
you
this is
talking
I'm talking about the first one.
was that the second one?
You might be talking about the second one. In the first one, you play as a escaped convict, basically, and you meet the little kid in her house, and then for the rest of the story, she's with you, and you make decisions, and it really makes you feel almost like. And I agree, The Last of Us did a really good job at this too. They both did an excellent job of making you really feel almost like you're a father figure for this kid.
Yeah.
I think that emotion is excellent, and that's really unprecedented as far as. And I think Telltale, and I agree, The Last of Us did just as good a job as, but I feel like Telltale can do that, and they're one of the. I mean, there are other companies, of course, out there because The Last of Us did it, but I feel like Telltale can do that kind of stuff. I just don't know how that's gonna fit in with Marvel's, because just different. You know what I mean? It's totally different in the style of like story and game that they're trying to do. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens.
Okay. Is it Lee? Do you know who Lee
Lee,
is?
yes, he's the main character.
Okay,
You play as him
is his death in the first game or the second?
first. You just spoiled that, but that's okay.
That's
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert. Well, okay, we're talking about Telltale games. Okay, his death was sad. That was
Very.
incredibly sad.
Oh,
I teared up.
extremely.
Okay, but there have been games better at evoking those types of emotions for me, like Gears of War, when I think it's I want to say third game. You play as basically Dominique gets back to his wife, right? Who he'd lost like in the first game. This may be the first Gears of War. I'm not sure. I apologize. You get back to her, and you like the whole game has been leading up to this moment. You find her, and she has been processed so heavily by the locust that when she runs and hugs you, she basically turns into this old woman with like gray skin and like dead. Like she can't even talk to you. Her eyes like catalyst over, and then you kill her because she is so heavily processed that if she lives, like that was the worst. There was also I don't even this was some game that wasn't very well respected, but they use oh my gosh, I think it's a banned war material now because of how horrible it was. I think it counts as chemical warfare. It was white phosphorus, I believe. 1 minute. White phosphorus. They used it in Iraq, I know. It's a chemical compound and it's nasty stuff. And you make the decision to use it on this wall that's blocking in a city. And then you find like you've killed like hundreds of civilians, and all these civilians are oh my gosh! I found a video. Uh, so all these civilians are like you see like a mother and a father with their trying to protect their kid who's like reaching out. Okay, it's like the classic like I'm getting teary right now.
Yes.
It so I don't know how it's first off going to play into Marvel, and secondly, I don't think that Telltale is the best at it, but they are very good.
Yeah, I don't think they're the best, but I think they've kind of like brought it to more of a like more people are getting in like seeing this. Like some of those games were more traditional like regular gamers games.
Yeah.
And the Telltale games are more like anybody can kind of pick these up and play. Like
Yeah.
my wife doesn't really play games that much. She played those games. She absolutely loved them. So in that respect, I think they're really good at this. So okay, we're gonna go to BLOPS 3. It's gonna be out November 6th. Have not seen the trailer. From what I've heard, it's awesome. Kind of. I don't know.
Looks interesting.
It looks interesting. That I have not seen this trailer, but it's supposed to be like technology is going to kill us all or something. I don't know exactly how that goes, but
basically the government does what they're already doing and gets a hold of technology that people would never ever be allowed to own because government, and they use it against you. So
that sounds interesting. So we'll probably cover that again as we get more information on that one. So I'm pretty sure that Headley did this on purpose. Put this next one right next to it.
Yes.
Because I don't know, because he's Headley.
The House passing bill to allow corporations to share your data.
Okay, this is horrible.
Can I take this one?
You can, and I'm going to be right there with you, especially since the next one's the Patriot Act.
Ah!
Please no Patriot Act. Let's get rid of it. Please.
There's so much bipartisan support for it too, because I get this. I'm gonna bring up Massey's run in a minute.
Okay.
So
Let's
House
talk
passing
about the bill one, the House bill first, and then we'll go to the Patriot Act.
So the House passing this bill negates the fact, indigestion. I had like 5 like heavily floured biscuits, and I have been sipping away at this 2-liter.
I've noticed that you've been doing that.
It's gotten wow. It was full when I started. So the problem with corporations, corporations sharing data would not be an issue if it weren't for government. Okay. And here's why: if it weren't for
but even I think just this like is House passes bill to allow corporations to share data with the government. I don't think it's sharing data with each other.
Well, either way, it's bad, and here's why. So, if it was going from corporation to corporation, which it already does to some degree, then you have the NSA, right? So when the NSA tried to get information from Yahoo and Apple, both of those companies were like, girl, right? They both stopped it. Now, if one company goes, okay, sure, then now some of Apple's stuff is lost and some of Yahoo's stuff is lost. But sharing it with the government, I don't think it needs to be said. That is horrible. What is the... Is that a doorbell?
Yes, because my brother-in-law is incessant. He will not stop ringing or knocking on the door until someone comes through there. And it's really freaking annoying. Drives me nuts.
Okay. Okay, we can all... I think every person watching this, every 2 people watching this, can agree that this is... It's horrible that this would... I feel like this is not allow corporations. I feel like this is going to turn into...
Almost.
Hey, you need to. You have to do this. But then to make it better, freaking Mitch McConnell. I'm saying this as someone who really wants a Republican to win. Well, not a Republican. Rand Paul. Voice crack. Rand Paul to win in 2016. That his fellow senator from Kentucky wants to extend the Patriot Act? Okay, that's ridiculous. And here is why I think he wants to... The reason he wants to do it is because he can't be held accountable for it. So I found this article, and it's Congressman Thomas Massie, another fairly libertarian candidate like Rand Paul. His 500-yard run. So, essentially, Congress passes a lot of bills, right? 561 bills in the 112th Congress. 132 days in that 1 year Congress was in session. 561 bills. That means 4 bills a day, including, just an example, a 600-page highway flood student loan bill that was given to the Senate the same day of the vote, which had 23 additional amendments that were not even in the outline. So, voice votes are frequently used to pass motions, amendments, or resolutions, and there are several problems. First, the voice vote holds no politicians accountable, because me saying yay, no reporter is going to be in there and be able to look at every single congressman in the room and be like, he said yay, nay, nay, yay, nay. You get the point.
Yeah.
There's no way to document it. The second problem is that it is at the discretion of the House chair. So this would be John Boehner, and he's the only one that's allowed to interpret the vote. So the House is supposed to have a quorum, which means 218 congressmen at least to hold a vote. But because it's a voice vote, sometimes according to Congressman Massie, there's only 10 congressmen present. Okay? There are 500 yards between Massey's office and the House floor, and so he keeps C-SPAN on, and when this is about to happen, he will sprint down to the House floor and demand a quorum so that politicians are held accountable for their votes, and also they can't do anything because, I mean, there is absolutely no way for them to do something because it would be illegal without a quorum.
Would you not? Oh.
In 2014, Massey's flight got canceled, and as a result, he ran into the House to see that about 10 congressmen, after they had claimed they were adjourned, were going to pass a bill to allow the president to arm Ukraine's military. Okay? Congressmen should be accountable for what they vote on, because, these are implications that could ruin your privacy, and, these are huge votes that they're taking with, 10 senators there. Or 10 congressmen there. I'm afraid the same thing's going to happen with the Patriot Act. So,
yeah, the big thing that I see, and down here on the House bill passes bill line corporation data, they're basically saying, and this, I know this happens a lot, it allows for data to flow between corporations via government. Crucially, there are provisions that allow the government to use the data outside of cyber threats. They don't need this data. It's not actually doing anything. They just want to collect this data. And it's a little ridiculous. Yeah, and the Patriot Act is the same thing. We don't need... from what I've heard, it's, stopped, maybe one actual threat. Probably more than that, but from what people like, it's very few actual threats that the Patriot Act has actually stopped since they put it in place.
It's done nothing.
So we don't need to extend this. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So let's go on to the next one. This is awesome. I'm a big computer science person, so this is really cool. We can actually print flexible circuits on stuff. There are tons of uses that I could see for this. We could do so many things here, especially being able to print circuits like on like the glove is really cool. You'd be able to print circuits on. I mean, this is just an example right here that would be really awesome. So I can see this being hugely amazing for a lot of different things. We might talk about this a little bit later if anything else comes up about this. So I can't think of anything right now that would be really nice for that, but
I mean, I'm thinking, what could you do? That, oh my gosh.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like things that I'm sure could be done. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head that would be just what would this be really super useful for. So
You could wire it into the urethra so that you wouldn't have to use catheters anymore, and it could attach to the brain, and the nervous system could send a message that said, "Hey, it's time to pee," or it made your prostate smaller when whatever. I'm done.
yeah, please.
H-
Let's, okay, so the next one, this is actually both pretty close to the same thing. This might actually be no, one's Wi-Fi and the other one is HTTPS. So we'll go over this real quick in the best way that I can explain this. Basically, what this does is when you have an HTTPS certificate, it basically checks if you're legitimate, and that's how the website knows that it's safe to go to this site. Well, right now, if you're using the AF networking, so basically, if you're using that specific part of HTTPS, it only checks if the certificate's legitimate. It doesn't check specifically who it is. So you could basically go and say you were Microsoft.com and use a certificate from somebody else, like this specific site, Ars Technica or whatever. I don't know why you would be Ars Technica, but you could be any site. You could use a certificate from that site and not actually be the specific site that. So, like, you could say you were a totally different site than what you are. You just have to have a valid certificate. And so this could be a serious problem because you could be pretending to be one site and use a certificate from a totally different site, and no one, basically HTTPS doesn't know, and you go to this site, and that easily opens you up to attack. The next one, I didn't read this one, so I'm going to look over it real quick.
The one about Android and
Yes.
Linux and Windows. Well, I mean, I don't know why people are surprised since...
So, it fails to check the length of incoming SSID information, and writes the information beyond the valid 32 octets. So basically, it looks like what they can do is, with an SSD that's too large, you can crash the device or potentially inject malicious software, which is definitely not a good thing. And it looks like it's on everything except it doesn't say iOS. So I'm not sure if iOS just isn't using this the same way, or if they're not even using the same type of things here. But this is definitely a potential problem. You could be causing lots and lots of issues with this.
Yeah.
By connecting to basically by connecting to something that seems completely legitimate, Wi-Fi wise, and it could crash your device or even inject something into memory. So this is definitely not good.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an upside to having iOS. Is iOS is generally very secure. There's always going to be open things with software. You can't just completely close.
You're never going to completely. I mean, and the only way to completely protect yourself is not being connected to the internet. And they're even working on trying to get past that now. So I don't know if you've seen where you can computers that are close enough, they basically use the heat.
Yeah.
Two computers are close enough, and you can inject code through heat, basically send data through the heat between the two computers.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty
I mean,
ridiculous.
if someone can get a computer close enough to you, you're screwed anyways. So, eventually, we're all going to be open to attack no matter what, but tinfoil hat.
Tinfoil hat, that's right.
So, I think that's all the articles we have for today. We are going to be uploading this on YouTube if anybody missed part of it or wants to see it. It also will be up in the past broadcasts. So we will see you guys. I believe Micah is going to be streaming tonight.
I am. Come by and see me, friends!
I think Mountain Dew is going to be streaming starting around 1. Because me and Austin are not streaming today.
Are we calling him Mountain Dew?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
That's his name on Twitch. So unless he changes his name on... The reason is because I don't want people to get confused. Yes, I know.
Mountain
What?
I know.
What's
We're
my
calling him
name?
Mountain Dew. Hey, Austin.
So...
What's my name on Twitch?
Not you. So I believe he's going to be streaming at 1. And then Micah's going to be streaming tonight. MagicMicah. I love your name. Or Jesus Jukes, whatever you want to call him.
Or Thomas.
He's going to be streaming tonight. So come check us out, and we will see you next week with whatever we decide to name this.